You probably woke up on August the 6th, and just like me, you may have had a notification in your Trading 212 account basically alerting you to a further update to the terms and conditions within Trading 212, or at least using Trading 212. I had someone in my Discord group actually message in on Saturday as well, just saying that they had watched a couple of videos and the videos basically meant that you should be a little bit worried. But when she read through it, it felt like a lot of financial jargon. So I'm making this video to kind of give you my thoughts on the changes, having had a look at them, and to basically give you maybe some tips to think about. I'm also going to compare the clauses within Trading 212 with maybe a close competitor. Free Trade is the one that I've chosen, purely because I find some of the language and how they position this to be a little bit peculiar. It's some stuff that you would typically see within terms and conditions, but the fact that they've just inserted these things and they've just changed them, I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna screen record my phone. Let's get into Trading 212 and just have a little chat about what they've included. So this is the notification that you would have got on August the 6th when you open up your Trading 212 account. Now, if you click on that link, it will take you to the terms of business. We just get rid of that top bit. And the clauses that we want to start having a look at is actually in section 12 under client money. So let's just get down there very, very quickly. The rest of what's in here isn't actually too bad. It is pretty standard stuff. But what I do want to start highlighting are two clauses in particular, which are a little bizarre. And I'm surprised that they haven't been included in the terms and conditions beforehand, and they are now. These things do have ramifications for your money potentially in the future if things were to go really, really wrong. And you should be asking questions. Unfortunately, I can't answer these questions for you. So if you are worried, I would strongly suggest that you get into Trading 212 and you start asking them directly in terms of what this essentially means. Now, the thing about terms and conditions is this: they are in there to protect them. They are the terms that you have to agree to use their service. If you don't agree with any of these, you can't use their service. So as a consumer, you're kind of like left to basically hang because you don't have any choices. If you want to use them, you have to agree to this. It's just the way the world works, and it is their commercial right to impose these terms and conditions. But what does this all mean? So let's have a look at clause 12.6 to start off with. Now, it says this: in the event of our failure, for example, due to insolvency, any money held in a client money account by third parties will be segregated from other assets and they will not be available to our creditors. Now, what that basically means is if they were to go insolvent, they will have your money set aside in segregated accounts, and any creditors that come along who they may owe money to cannot get hold of your money. However, they do continue, and it says, however, in the event of failure, for example, due to insolvency of a third party, as your client money will be held with other customers' money in a pooled client account, in the event that the third party bank holding the money defaults and there is a shortfall, you will share proportionally in that shortfall with other creditors of the bank where your client money is deposited. What that essentially means is that if they are using a third party bank to hold your funds, and that third party bank were to go bust, essentially they could call on your money to pay off their creditors, which is a big red flag for anybody who uses them. I've got a little bit, a portion, a small portion of my overall portfolio invested with them. And even with that small proportion that I have invested with them, I do not want, for none of my own fault, one of their third parties to go bust, and then my funds being used to pay off anybody that they owe money to. I don't want any of that. And again, this is a clause that is baked into their terms and conditions. You cannot negotiate this. So I think if you are using Trading 212 and they're one of your biggest kind of like homes for your money, you do need to think about what you're going to do and whether you want to continue using them. And look, we're talking hypotheticals here. That may not happen in the future, But at the same time, nobody expected the Lehman Brothers to go bust in 2007, 2008. So it can happen. Stranger things have happened. Now, clause 2.7. We may hold client money in a client bank account located in a jurisdiction outside the UK. Now, the UK jurisdiction bit is important. Let's talk about that and what that means. What we know is if a company is authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, like Trading 212 are, you basically are afforded consumer protections, one of which is the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, which means that if a company were to go bust due to insolvency, then you can get up to £85,000 of your money invested with them back. That is a good thing. But the rest of this clause reads like this. The legal and regulatory regime applying to any such bank will be different from that of the UK. And in the event of the insolvency of any other equivalent failure or any other equivalent failure of that bank, your money may be treated differently from the treatment which would apply if your money was held with a bank in the UK. What does that essentially mean? It essentially means that if, for example, they are holding money in a bank account in Cyprus, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying that they have bank accounts or using third parties with bank accounts in Cyprus. What that basically means is because it's outside of the UK jurisdiction, potentially the Financial Services Compensation Scheme protections that you have up to £85,000 will not apply. Again, for many of you, this may be a red flag. And believe me, if you're worried, I don't blame you for being worried because these are legitimate questions and legitimate things that you need to know. And you need to ask yourself, are you okay agreeing to this clause in their contract? Again, none of this may even apply. None of this may ever need to apply in the future. But stranger things have happened. So therefore, you need to be aware and prepared of it. Clause 2.8 is pretty much irrelevant. Clause 2.9 is just kind of highlighting some of the things that they will do to basically help you safeguard. And by the way, if you read this, none of this stuff is out of the ordinary. It's stuff they should be doing anyway. So what they're basically trying to do here is they're telling you this clause is in 2.6 and 2.7. They apply in 2.9. This is what we're doing. But again, every clause preceding 2.9 applies. So the protections and all of that, you need to ask questions about. Now, what I also wanted to do in this video is kind of just compare the language in the terms and conditions with another competitor, so free trade specifically, because I think they're the closest to each other in this space. Now, for that, I'm going to go on to the free trade terms and conditions on their website, and they don't have a client money clause, but what they do have is a clause called use of custodians. This is it right here. Now, what I'm going to do is just walk you through what is said in this clause here, then you can contrast between them and Trading 212. Now, clause 23, it says, we use third-party custodians to hold our client funds, including your available funds and securities for them. In the case of securities purchased by you through our services, we may use our nominee company, Free Trade Nominees Limited, which is also a custodian. We require those custodians to hold your available funds and securities in accordance with the rules of the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, including that all cash should be held in a segregated and designated client money bank account. So the premise of this is pretty much exactly the same to the language that you're seeing in Trading 212. If I'm completely honest, most financial companies that offer investment services have to do this. Money has to be held in a segregated client account or a designated client account. So this is nothing new. Now, in the second paragraph of this, it said, we will conduct reasonable investigations and make reasonable inquiries concerning the financial standing of our custodians before we appoint them, and will continue to use reasonable endeavors to monitor their financial standing and general conduct of their business for as long as they remain appointed by us. Now, it may seem unnecessary to point out that you are going to do everything that you can to basically monitor the financial standing. So when they say financial standing, they're saying if we're going to use third party X, do they have enough money in the bank in case things went really, really wrong to help them survive through a difficult period? Stress testing, essentially. It may seem unnecessary to mention within the contract, but they're doing that to give you confidence. It's an important point. Now, it also says here the decision, obviously, to use custodians will be down to them, as you would expect. Again, you don't get to negotiate these things. This is stuff that they're putting in place. But here's the thing. It says, while we will typically use custodians that will hold our client funds, including your available funds and securities in the UK, we may also, on our sole discretion and based on the securities in which you make instructions, appoint custodians to hold funds and or securities abroad. So they're saying that they can use custodians abroad, but this is what they said. But we will use reasonable endeavors to ensure that the level of protection afforded by custodians who hold funds and or securities abroad will be materially the same as the level of protection afforded by our custodians who hold funds and or securities in the UK. However, you should be aware that there may be some differences. Now, this is really, really important. Whilst they're letting you know that they may still use companies that don't have foot in here in the UK. So it's another jurisdiction that will be applying. What they're going to do within their negotiations is try and make sure that you get materially the same level of protection, albeit sometimes they may be different. This is very, very different to the wording that you've seen in Trading 212, where they are basically talking about if their third party goes bust, then potentially you share proportionally in the debt that they owe to creditors, and your funds can be used to clear those debts. This is very, very different language, very, very different wording. Now, if you do use Trading 212 for the majority of your portfolio, this is just a tale to kind of maybe just drive home that you need more than one provider. You may be completely comfortable with this. If you are, fantastic, carry on as usual. If you are worried, then I think it's worthwhile looking for some alternatives, maybe thinking about what you do with your portfolio. I can't advise you. You're going to have to do what is best for you. But what I'm going to do is just maybe give you a couple of options. So ones that are very, very close, free trade, obviously. You get access to the UK and the US markets. They're an option. Stake. The only thing with Stake is they only give you access to the US markets and you don't have the accessible ISA account. They don't have one right now. So if you're in a Trading 212 ISA, for example, then what you would then do is transfer your holdings from Trading 212 into Free Trade, for example. Free Trade should be able to initiate that transfer on your behalf. You couldn't do that with Stake because they don't have an ISA account and you don't have access to the UK market. Those are probably the two closest competitors that I could maybe suggest right off the bat in terms of other providers that you could use if you're worried about these clauses in the Trading 212 terms and conditions now. I will post links to both of them down in the comments. They'll be pinned right there. So if you use the referral link right there, obviously you'll get a free share. I will also get a free share as well. Free Trade were doing a bit of a giveaway. I don't know if it's still on at the moment, but they're giving away a little bit more. And I think Stake are doing exactly the same thing. They're giving away a little bit more than what they were before. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you going to be looking at maybe diversifying who you're going to be using? Let me know what your thoughts are. I know that they're opening accounts now in Europe with Trading 212. When we're going to get that here in the UK, I don't know, but we're just going to have to wait and see. But hopefully you found this useful. Have an amazing week, guys.